the volume down for a minute, if you would. So I'm going to multitask here because my computer will die somewhere in the middle of this if it's not plugged in. So what I did is I looked at Buckminster Fuller, Da Vinci, of course, Heinrich Altschuler, a lot of creative minds trying to figure out what are the basic things they did in creativity, okay? I'm going to skip this one. Go ahead and go down the volume for a second. Apollo 13, probably most people have seen that movie or they know the concept. The mission going to the moon got fouled up and they didn't make it to the moon, had to come home. Here's a video clip from the movie of probably the least recognized part of the movie, and I'll explain why in a minute. Okay, go ahead and hit the volume, please.
Okay, Houston, the water heater circuit breakers are open.
Copy that.
When we use the forward omni when the Earth's in the window, and we're switching to aft omni when we see the moon.
We copy that, 13. Aquarius, we don't want you to make any more waste dumps. The venting may push you off course.
Said don't make any more waste dumps.
No more waste
what
dumps.
The controller just said.
We're just going to have to store it. Jack, gonna need some more urine bags.
Okay, Houston, that leaves us with just the computer, which I'm shutting down now.
And that's it. We just put Isaac Newton in the driver's seat.
Okay, go back to that for a minute. Sorry about this audio thing. You got to turn the volume down, please. Could you turn the volume down, please, on the computer? So, what the controller said was, again, this is conventional wisdom being wrong and misconception was, the controller said, no more waste dumps. What the astronauts thought they heard was, do not dump any more human waste outside of the craft the rest of the entire mission. Okay? So, they have to go to the bathroom. Where are they going? They're going in boxes, in bags, and duct taping stuff, and sticking it in compartments. And it's nice and cold and freezing inside of there, so it's not really too bad. Except during re-entry, when the whole craft heated up, all this stuff melted, and then they hit splashdown, and it flew all over them. They're completely covered with it. Okay? So, the frogman, the guy that knocks on the door, says, give him a thumbs up. Opens the door and they're just covered in human waste. It's like, how did that get on the outside of the spacesuit? Well, during the debriefing, they're asking the controller, like, why did we have to store that for the whole time? And he's like, I didn't tell you to do that. He goes, we said no more waste dumps. He goes, I meant for 5 seconds. I just wanted you to stop for 5 seconds so I could get a Doppler fix off. Because you were dumping stuff right when I was trying to get a Doppler read and you couldn't read it. So there's a total miscommunication because people didn't ask questions and they just made assumptions that they thought somebody meant. Right? Lens 5 is merging, bring things closer together, parallel operations. In the US, Yum factory has A&W, Taco Bell, KFC. They all used to be separate fast food restaurants, and now they started to merge them together and put them all under one roof. Why do that? Why is that innovative and more creative? Well, the customer has more choices on their food selection, and you've saved cost on staff, bathrooms, tables, soda fountains, silverware, that type of thing. Okay? This is my friend Dave Campbell. Dave is a very creative guy. He lives in Louisville, Kentucky, which, by the way, the Kentucky Derby is today. Today. So he lives in Louisville, Kentucky, where the Kentucky Derby is, and everyone in that town is kind of gamblers. They like to gamble, and they love to gamble on the horse races. That's how it's pronounced. Horses. That's how you say it in Kentucky. Horse race. And I was explaining this concept to him and talking about merging, where you're merging things together. When Dave gambles, he talks all the time. His job is at GE, and he drives around a little electronic cart, so he's talking to everyone on the shop floor constantly. And he runs the yearly raffle where they give away a car at the church. So he knows all these things, raffles, and he talks to people, and he's interacting with them all the time, you know, during the middle of the day. He combined all this together and came up with an idea that said, I'm going to raffle off my paycheck. So he drove around and sold raffle tickets to raffle off his paycheck,
and he ended up doubling his salary for 2 years. Okay? So he merged things together to make something more creative. How many people have been to Sydney, Australia, to the bridge climb? This is the #1 attraction in Sydney, Australia. This guy, what he did, he doesn't own the bridge. And here's an important point. In TRIZ, everyone thinks they don't have enough resources. You need to look at all the available resources that you have. You always have more resources than you believe you do. And one important thing is you can always look for resources that aren't yours. What resources are there around you that aren't yours that you could use? He doesn't own the bridge, right? But he proposed an attraction where it's a bridge climb. It's not really a climb, it's kind of a walk up the bridge, but it costs $200. He had $6 million in investment to put all the cables and safety equipment in. He's done $500 million in revenue. $6 million investment, $500 million in revenue, by merging together things that he didn't even own. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. All right, there has to be a better way to sneak beer into a football game. That was the concept these guys were thinking about. Nested doll. This is another one of the 40 principles of TRIZ. Like a Russian nested doll, you have a little doll inside of another one, okay? You're combining things inside of other things. He came up with this thing called a beer belly, which is a little plastic thing that holds 8 beers. You stick it inside your shirt, and it looks like you have a gut, and you can get into a football game and sneak beer in. So it's kind of a nested doll. It's a belly inside of a shirt. These guys have made millions, okay? The word that was used the other day by the last speaker was, is it novel? Yes, it's novel. That's why he had Sports Illustrated, CNN, all this free press, Washington Post, no marketing, no advertising, but because it was novel, he got all this free coverage. When I talked to him, he said, Mark, I'm going to the Playboy Mansion in 2 weeks to do a promotion. Do you want to go with me? I said, yes, I do. My wife said, no, you don't. So I did not go. So that's a nested doll. That concept makes sense? What else, what next, is what you always want to ask yourself. You guys need to ask yourself that with students in your classes, is what else and what next can you do after transaction or after your engagement? What they came up with was a wine rack. So it's a bra that holds wine. I told you I was going to offend some people. This is some crazy ideas, but these guys are making a bunch of money. Okay? It's a nested doll concept. And of course, these things must be tested. So that is me testing it. Weight compensation. So I'm just giving you some examples of the different lenses. Weight compensation is you take the weight of one thing to counterbalance the weight of the other. When Al Gore lost the presidential election, he attached himself to global warming. It was after he invented the internet, right? But he attached himself to global warming to stay in the limelight. Does that make sense? He attached himself to something else as lift. When she didn't win the election, she tied herself to a whole bunch of things, a book and do a TV show and a lot of other things to stay in the limelight. When I wrote Da Vinci and the 40 Answers, the editor was looking at the book, said, here's an example I have from high school on weight compensation. I had a car that I was trying to sell, and it was an older car. It used to be a good car, but it was not in that great a shape anymore. And I couldn't get anyone to come look at this car that I was trying to sell. So nobody wanted this car, but everyone wanted to go out with my sister. So he combined the two and said, okay. To his sister, he goes, well, will you go out on a date with somebody if they buy my car? She goes, sure, I'll help out. Why not? So he got 3 offers that day for more money than he was asking for his car. Does that make sense? Weight compensation, taking something somebody doesn't want and combine it with something that somebody does. A common thing in business practice is to take inventory that's not moving and bundle it with inventory that does move, okay, so that you're getting rid of the stuff. How can you fail in 2 weeks? I was talking to people on the bus last night. Instead of large project plans, the way you make innovation and creativity happen first is you do 2-week plans. How can you further advance the promise of an idea? Why do most ideas fail? What's the #1 reason ideas fail? They never get started. That's the number one reason. How do you get started? Do a 2-week test. Find a way to do it in 2 weeks. Most new discoveries don't result in a eureka moment, but a puzzled, what in the world just happened? That's how it usually works. Smallpox. This is how we created vaccinations. A doctor noticed that if somebody got cowpox, it made you sick, but cowpox never killed you. Okay? Smallpox would kill you. But if you got cowpox, you never got smallpox. So he started taking blood from people with smallpox and injecting them, and that's how we created vaccinations. It was somebody who was smart enough to go test something like that. A microwave oven was never intended, originally the research to heat food. Microwave research was for radars, okay? Somebody just happened to notice it melted chocolate bars and popped popcorn at the same time and came up with a microwave. What was Viagra designed for? Yeah, blood pressure. Okay, has a much more marketable side effect from testing it. The Wizard Academy is in Austin, Texas, is a non-profit, really weird, unaccredited school that I'm the chairman of the board at. It's founded by Roy Williams, who has 3 best-time sellers in marketing and advertising. And we teach companies how to do cool stuff faster. We have a lot of expert teachers there. For example, it takes 4 years to get a public relations degree in college. We teach it in 2 days on what really works with public relations and how do you do it. We started a new class last year where we take a concept, the students present a concept for a new business, and it has to go from concept to making money in 72 hours. We've launched 12 companies already. Concept to making money in 72 hours. Sound insane? That's what we're doing, and it's working. Okay? You're making people have to do things faster.
Uncle Brandon, I'm not like other people.
Can you bring everything you've seen to your mind?
Sure, can't you?
Temple was born in the 60s when autism was really misunderstood.
No speech yet at the age of 4. Your child is clearly autistic.
What's the next step?
We generally recommend an institution.
How many people have heard of Temple Grandin or read any of her books? Okay, she's autistic. She has a PhD in animal science, and any of the beef that you buy in America from McDonald's or Burger King, she's qualified the slaughterhouse to be more humane. Her rationale is that an autistic person's brain, the part that is underdeveloped or not functioning correctly, is the same part of an animal's brain that is smaller than a human's. And so her rationale has always been she can kind of think more like an animal, and that's how she's redesigned some of the slaughterhouses and stuff. The comment was made, make something novel. Yesterday, again, was what the professor from North American was talking about. Autism can be good. Autism can be good. That's a really weird statement for me to be presenting at a technical conference. But that's exactly what I did at the TRIZ conference in 2010, because I'm trying to be different and get people's attention. Okay, you have to get, what he mentioned yesterday about the brain was spot on about it has to be different to be memorable. It's actually in the brain, we teach a lot of courses on this. It's called Broca, B-R-O-C-A. Broca's area of the brain is responsible to keep all the normal stuff out. It only recognizes things that are different. So it's really key in innovation and creativity of designing products and services. How are you getting that person's attention, okay, from all the noise that is out there? How many people can read autism can be good in that picture? So a subset of that is what's called sensible design. You can get really creative by looking at each sense, the 5 senses individually. Acura TSX, for example, when you shut the car door, it sounds like an expensive car door, but it's not. It's a cheap door, and it has a little chip in there with a speaker that makes it sound loud, sound heavy when you shut it. When Bose first came out with the new super small speakers 15 years ago, they couldn't sell them because they were too light. People were not used to it, so he had to put sandbags in them to make them feel heavier. Okay, so you have to mess with people's senses. When we transitioned from the cell phone that had the antenna that you pulled out to that short, stubby one, that wasn't real. That's not a real antenna. Did you guys know that? It's fake. That antenna was fake because people couldn't transition from a big antenna to what we have now with none that's visible. So you had to mess with the senses. NXT shave cream, all they do is put a little LED light in there. It's at the cheapest level of shelf space, but when you walk by every 5 minutes, a little blue LED light lights up. You're messing with the visual senses, and that's what attracts people to it, okay? Blue Ice Vodka, when they sell vodka at bars, they give you a little swizzle stick that has a little blue LED light on it, so it makes the drink glow. These are all like simple examples that have changed the market on using one of the 5 senses. Equipotentiality, I've been wondering for weeks how that's going to translate. Okay, I've talked to the translators today. What it means is take the field or force, whether it's magnetic or gravity, and use it in your favor to do something. This fall Kirk rotating boat lift, you have up here, you have a lake area, and down here a lake area. The boats, you can't see this thing with the LED, but the boats basically load into this and then load here with the same weight, and the thing rotates to allow them to transport from one lake to the next. Okay? Other way around is another lens. Where are we at on time so I don't get yelled at? Okay? That's the other way around. It's doing things backwards. That's kind of backwards, right? Kerry Mullis, who's been to the Wizard Academy several times, he won the Nobel Prize for polymerized chain reaction. How did that translate? The guys are yelling at me. PCR. He won that. Basically, his concept was during the DNA projects and GNOME projects and stuff, trying to break the DNA code. What everyone was looking for was a needle in a haystack. They were trying to extract a very small molecule out of billions of molecules. The analogy Kerry used was, if you had a library of 20,000 books and you were looking for one misspelled word out of 20,000 books, and you had a clue, the clue was you knew the word before it and the word after it that was misspelled, but you didn't know what the misspelled word was. You're trying to find it in 20,000 books. That's what all of the biologists were doing. He said, do it the other way around. Why do that? Why don't we take the needle in the haystack and make the needle reproduce itself so that there's more of the thing we're looking for and it's easy to find it. That's all he did, and he revolutionized DNA. Okay? He won a Nobel Prize for that. He's going to win another Nobel Prize. You're going to freak out when I tell you what he's working on now. Is when you have a pig valve put into your heart, a heart surgery with a pig valve, you have to take your immune system down to almost zero because you have T cells in your body that will attack this foreign thing. Okay? They're very powerful. So that's why all surgery, they take your immune system down to nothing because the immune system will kill that pig valve. He said, let's do it the other way around. Instead of trying to suppress it, why don't we aim it? Again, this is not a biologist, this is a chemist doing something different. He said, what I can do is I can take AIDS virus or SARS, anthrax, and I can chemically attach it to that antibody and make it go after that instead of like a pig valve. So you can actually take a pill, and if you acquired AIDS, that pill would attack the AIDS and go out of your body before it could infect you. Go watch the TED conference. He's got the results out last year. That stuff will change the world. He will win another Nobel Prize. Okay? I'm giving you examples of 40 lenses. I've talked to Kerry. He's only practiced one in his whole life, and he's going to win 2 Nobel Prizes. Now, one other comment, and this will freak you out a little bit. So I've heard a lot about Steve Jobs. Did you guys know that Steve Jobs did LSD? He did acid and LSD. Okay? So that's a weird concept to think you wouldn't have an iPhone or an iPad if it wasn't for LSD. Now, I'm not promoting, I've never had LSD, I've never taken any drugs. I'm not promoting anyone takes drugs, but I am promoting to think magically. And on the interpretation, I'm not using the word innovation or creativity. It's magically. The word magic hasn't been used anywhere in the last day and a half. Professors, when you guys are in the classrooms, you need to encourage students to think magically. It's a lost art in humanity. We don't do it anymore. We were all kids at one time. All us adults, we hardly ever think magically anymore. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. All right, so those of you that are going, this guy's a complete idiot. I have no idea what he's talking about. How do you turn this off? Here is a bunch of technical examples on the TRIZ journal. Just a second. I don't know how to turn my own phone off. Never use this timer. Go to this, by the way, at the end I'll give you, I uploaded this morning a PDF on my server so everyone will have all these slides so you don't have to write down this address. But here is 1,500 examples of TRIZ being applied in chemistry, architecture, chemical engineering, construction. You just go to this address at the bottom and this slide will be in your PDF and you can have all the technical examples you could possibly stand. Okay? Let's skip that. We got just a couple more slides. Mechanical vibration is another lens. Everything vibrates and oscillates. Your cell phone manner mode is a way that it's applied or used. Ultrasound for kidney stones, using that is vibration. Everything vibrates. Washing machines. You know, you have the big agitator in your closed washing machine. You also have a small one in there that most people don't know that's a high frequency vibrator to remove the dirt from the fabric. Okay? Everything vibrates, and you can use that to your advantage. On the space shuttle, at the first launch, this is the two astronauts, Crippen and Young, and they asked them on the debriefing, was anything strange? And they're like, for like 4 hours going, no, everything's great. And they finally get to the part where they said for 2 minutes they could not see the dashboard. It was just blurred. But right after 2 minutes they could see it fine. Well, what happens at 2 minutes on a shuttle launch? The solid rocket boosters come off. Okay? So we went back and we looked at all the data and found out our boosters shake. They have a harmonic in there at 3 hertz, 3 cycles per second, which happens to be the natural frequency of your eyeball. You guys have all kind of, so their eyeballs were harmonizing with the vibrations of the shuttle. So we had to get rid of a 3 megahertz. You've probably done this in your car. Driving, you'll have the windows down in some configuration, driving at a certain speed, and all of a sudden your inner ear freaks out. That's because your inner ear is like 15 to 18 hertz, natural frequency. So there's a lot of things you can use as far as mechanical vibration. This is the last one, and this will really freak you out, and if you don't want to have your belief system challenged, don't read this book. Okay, but this just came out last year. It's a 30-year collection of hundreds and hundreds of scientific papers that will blow your mind on things that are out there that have actually been done. Talking about mechanical vibration, one of the tests they did is you used vibrational energy and point it at a rat's tail, a mouse, a lab mouse tail, and his tail turns into a cat's tail. You can take mechanical energy and turn an apple tree into a pear tree. We're altering live DNA by vibrating it. Okay? I've gone and read about 15 of the papers that he references, and they all seem legitimate to me. Okay? It's pretty interesting stuff to go look at. This last slide, we'll skip to here because we're done. A couple comments about thinking magically. I'll just leave you with this. In the United States, 200,000 books are written every year, new titles. 200,000 books. Okay? 90% of those books are business. Non-fiction books. Business non-fiction books. However, 90% of the books that are sold or bought every year are fiction. Why is that? The best business book in a year, the top selling book, business book in a year, sells way less than Harry Potter does in 1 week. I believe it's because we're starving for adventure. Okay? Every one of you professors, what I want you to do when you get to your office is put a plaque that says adventure. And I don't care if you're teaching typewriter maintenance, okay, to your students. Figure out a way to integrate adventure and the sense of magic and adventure into what they're doing. Does that make sense? These sensory receptors you have in your brain that allow you to experience sight, sound, and the world around you. And then you have synapses that are responsible for imagination and creativity. You have 100,000 times more synapses than you do sensory receptors in your brain. Another way to look at that is your brain is designed to be 100,000 times more efficient to imagine a world that doesn't exist than one that does. So use it. Okay? Thank you for having me.